a story that really is touching in all facets. Dr. Patricia O'Neill served as the director of the trauma and surgical ICU at Brookdale Hospital in Brooklyn. And her legacy will live on at that hospital for decades and decades to come. Antwan Lewis has her remarkable story.
1, 2, 3.
The trauma bay at One Brooklyn Health Brookdale was dedicated Friday morning, dedicated to a lady who spent her life making sure others were okay.
This is just an honor because we know that she has touched so many lives, and we're lucky to have her as family.
Family, friends, colleagues, and elected officials were on hand as the hospital renamed perhaps its busiest sector in honor of Dr. Patricia O'Neill, the longtime chief of trauma and surgical ICU. On February 18, 2023, Dr. O'Neill and her husband, Dr. Peter Smith, were killed in a car accident on Long Island.
Fox 5's connection to Dr. O'Neill and to One Brookdale Health Brooklyn goes beyond today.
The accident happened roughly 2 weeks after we interviewed her about the work she and her team did as a Level 2 trauma center in East New York, Brooklyn. She and I connected instantly. We hit it off, her humanity shining through when asked if doctors cry, given what they do to try and save lives.
Oh, sure. Sure. Maybe we don't show it publicly. But yes, I've actually teared up many times when I've had to give family bad news.
1, 2, 3. We'll see patients from broken bones and patients who come in, gunshot patients, stabbing patients, patients who have are basically on the brink of death.
He came here to do an interview on violence in Brooklyn. And Dr. O'Neill and Antwan had become very good friends.
The shoot was only supposed to be an hour. We ended up staying 3.5 just because of how Dr. O'Neill and I clicked. And I thought a lot, just about, her on and off, all this time. Aaron and the family it's rare that the family checks on a reporter.
Oh, she would have loved it. Her heart was always here in Brooklyn. She was a warm, loving, generous person.
Her legacy is alive here each and every day with all of her colleagues that they've learned from her, but that she's right here on the wall and she'll give them the courage and the strength to just keep going. So it's very comforting and just honoring and pride.
What a story.
Just trying not to look at it.
So Antwan Lewis is kind enough to join me for a couple minutes here to talk. I wanted to talk to you about that story. So tell us, you shot that story on Friday. What was it about Dr. O'Neill that why did you guys click immediately?
I don't know. That hospital, they're in East New York, Brooklyn, so we're talking Brownsville, East New York, all of that corridor. It is a very busy corridor as far as the types of patients they see, the gunshots, stabs. They see the most serious, and like Rami, Dr. Abdelnabi was saying in his SOT, they get the most serious on the brink of death. And we went to do a story about them just being a Level 2 trauma center. And from the moment we shook hands and were introduced, something just happened. And there was just an instant connection that happened. And literally, it was just the fact that you click. And I smile now, but at one point, while Andre Greller, our photographer, and we shot it in February of 2023, 3 years ago, but at one point, while he was shooting B-roll and she and I were just talking, I didn't even realize it. I had my arm around her shoulder. She had her hand around my waist, and we were just hanging out, watching him doing that. So just a connection that was there, and her humanity. I mean, what we do for a living pales in comparison to what, first responders do. And particularly, she's the head of surgical and trauma ICU. So yeah, they are constantly going, but just a generous, gracious spirit that, we only had 3.5 hours to connect, and I'm so much better for it.
Oh, don't you think, to me, that's the best part of that's why we do what we do. It's not the camera, it's not the microphone, it's getting to meet people like Dr. O'Neill.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree that that's the most rich part of this business?
I ever since it happened and just literally the accident happened 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks. I think it was 15 days after we did the story. And you know how it is. We have this term called HFR, hold for release, which means that we will shoot it. Then at some point we figure out a day to
Air it
write
later.
it, and it will air later. I hadn't even touched it, had not touched it. And that Saturday morning, Sharon, whom you'll see in the story in the yellow dress, who's like the head of communications and public relations for One Brooklyn Health Brookdale, called me on a Saturday morning at like 7 in the morning. And I looked, I'm like, what's this about? Why is that? And she's emotional and she's talking and she says, Dr. O'Neill, has been killed in a car accident, her and her husband. And I said, wait, what are you talking about, Sharon? And she was explaining it to me again, and I just didn't process it and didn't think it was real. So what I did, called into the station, called into the assignment desk, Mike Brook, our weekend dayside assignment editor. I said, Mike, can you look into a car accident on Long Island that happened last night? And I was giving him the backstory. He says, all right, I'll check it out. Mike Brook called back like 10 minutes later and filled in the details, confirming it. So Amy Sandler, our EP at the time, Jeff Gessoff, our weekend EP, we had to have a meeting. I had to let them know what was going on because Amy was the producer of this piece, and we were trying to figure out, well, we certainly can't do a piece now with this happen. So everybody breathed to get through the weekend. And then that Monday, we all met and said, why don't we just turn the story, the original story, into more about her work as head of the trauma center and then get into what they did. And then it aired. The station was great. The tough part was the hospital asked me to speak at the memorial, which was like a few days. Oh my gosh, yeah,
Amazing.
If you thought Friday was bad, that day was that day was rough.
Well, I tell you what, you did her justice, and boy, you covered her with such heart.
Thank you.
She would have been so pleased.
She was
with
just
what you did.
Great spirit, great lady. All of them there at that hospital, and the picture that's at the end of the story happened by chance. She and Rami, Dr. Abdulnabi, were walking us out, and Andre was putting his stuff away, and Rami said, "Hey, let's take a selfie," like that. I was like, "Okay." So I had my arm around him and got her. We squeezed her in, and
have that picture forever.
Yeah,
there it is.
Pass. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that was tough to look at. That's me and Rami on Friday, standing there. We were trying to recreate it as much as we could, and thankfully, Rami succeeded her. So he's now the head of trauma and surgical ICU. So, yeah, and we have a connection to, he's a dad now. He's got 2 little boys, so in the time that all of this has happened. So,
well, I saw the story 3 times this morning, and I watched every frame of it every single time. It just got more and more poignant each time I saw it. So
appreciate it, Mo.
Thanks for coming on to talk about it. I really appreciate it. Love you, brother.
Love you, babe.
Nice job. All right, we're gonna let you go get ready for the noon. You're anchoring the noon. Go get it, my friend.
All right, babe.